Hi, this is The Remedy. Hi, I'm your host, Tony ntalleresco, and you're listening to us live on the Micro Effect Broadcasting Network. You can access the show by typing in www.themicroeffect.com. Then click on the appropriate links, the chat room links. Come on in, make friends, get acquainted, solve some issues, share ideas, save the planet. We also publish information at www.health-access.com and at byebyeblueskies.com. Tony, I think we will continue to have static, so keep going. Okay. We also publish information at byebyebluesky.com with articles on health, remedies, and general information going on worldwide and right here at home. This program is designed to help you keep your health and to show viable and inexpensive alternatives that can keep you and your family healthy, and to alleviate or remove unwanted illnesses that may occur in our lives from time to time, making you aware that not all that's supposed to be safe is, and in some cases allowing to understand the hidden dangers and possible solutions for prevention or protection of your health. I've been in the health food industry as well as a personal consultant and bodybuilder trainer, assisting people in finding health solutions, and have utilized different healing modalities from different cultural themes, as well as in herbs, supplements, vitamins, essential oils, and foods. You can access me by going to my website at augmentinforce.com, augmentinforce.com. I also do personal consultations as well, whether through the internet, through the IMs, phones, personal visits, as well as in-house workshops for families, individuals, or groups. On the website at augmentinforce.com, we have a catalog link. Feel free to peruse the catalog link. On there, you'll see the bucket. You'll see herbal remedies. You'll see different kinds of solutions. We also have the flash drive, a 32 gig flash drive with all kinds of information on it, from databases on farming, bushcraft, survival. We also have things on it from the radio interviews, radio shows, books, all 3 books, as well as videos. Again, feel free to contact me. We also do consultations. So if you need a consultation, you can email me at independz@yahoo.com or contact me here at 519-977-5351. For more information, if you have any questions on the show or any information you might want to get, feel free to call in at 1-208-935-0094 pertaining to the show. All right. And today's date is December 10th, 2016. Yay! We're still here. All right. I got to do a promo real quick for those of you who aren't aware. I sent the email out this week, but for those of you who are not aware, we are having a main event in Windsor, Ontario at the shop here tomorrow, December 12th, between the hours of 12 and 3. We're going to be doing a consultation kind of thing. If you come in, you have a health issue, you want to have a consult on, it'll be a freebie. For donation going to GAG Canada, that's been put out by Bernadette Green. She will also be here tomorrow to discuss things on chemtrails and what's in the chemtrails, things that are going on with chemtrails in Canada especially. So if you're in the neck of the woods, if you're in Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, and you're hearing the show, you can feel free to come on by tomorrow between the hours of 12 and 3 a.m. 12 and 3 p.m. Eastern. Feel free to come on by, get a hold of Bernadette, talk to her. Again, we're doing a promo there to help her, again, expand the awareness of chemtrails and what's going on with chemtrails done here locally in Windsor, Ontario. So again, feel free to come on by. This is why the aliens are causing all this distortion, because we are making a stand here in Windsor about chemtrails and the problems of chemtrails. All right. So much has gone on. You know, it's one of those, everything's a blur with me. You know? Even doing this show, getting it ready, one thing after another just sort of keeps on coming in. I had a call this morning from Australia, and the fellow there was discussing about some of the things that were going on. I just had somebody send me a picture from Australia with things coming out of their skin from the nano poisoning. It looked like a mimetic, quite possibly. Yeah. Anyway, he was showing me some what appeared to be insects coming out of the body. Now I want to talk about this a little bit because some of you are already experiencing the nano outbreaks. Some of you are already feeling the power of the nano coursing through your body, and you better understand what a mimetic is. A mimetic is something that actually copies or resembles or will mimic the effect of a template. In this case, an insect. And these nano constructs that occur in the body can take on any shape or any form. And all it takes is for a frequency to activate the program, and then it will initiate a construct from your very proteins and your genetic code to create these images in the body. We talked about this years ago. I never really got into any full elaboration on it, but I feel today maybe we need to get into this a little bit. Because then what happens is when your blood gets examined under a scope, it appears you have some kind of biological infection. Some bug got into you. Some worm got into you. Some possible parasite got into you. And a lot of times what this is the nano altering its composition to appear to look like it's mimicking these life forms. And they use it, some of them will even look like little tiny fish swimming through your cells or through your blood. This is done on purpose so that they can better transport these particulates throughout your body to further network these things inside of you. And this may sound a little bit far-fetched, but if you start looking terminologies up, nanomimetics, biological mimetics, okay, you'll find that this has been out there for quite some time. And when you start understanding the nature of how we're being violated, as I was explaining to some people throughout the week, when you look and consider how we've been exposed to nanotechnology in the food supply since 1970, and nobody, and I mean nobody, was saying anything about this. So while everyone was under the influence of the idea that they were eating an organic food and an organic bread or a genetically engineered gluten-free bread, nobody was dealing with the fact that you were consuming a nanoparticulate that would have been put into the grain, into the flour, into the powders, mixed together, so that while you consume these things, over a period of time, they would have accumulated in the body, would have translocated throughout the body, would have attached themselves to certain parts of the body, and then started accumulating and creating certain constructs as a result of the frequencies of with exposure. How many of you know friends or have friends, or you yourself have restless leg syndrome? How many of you have fibromyalgia? How many of you have had lupus? These things are not necessarily a biological component. These all can be as a direct result of being exposed to a certain level of again, nanoparticulates that would have reached a certain saturation point in your bodies, and then would have, again, translocated throughout the system. How many of you have been told you may have a dementia issue? How many of you have been told this? Okay, that dementia issue could be a direct result of aluminum, barium, and lithium, and cadmium, and a whole host of other things, which may have translocated into the thyroid or into the brain, that would have again caused cerebral damage to the cerebral cortex, causing high levels of oxidation to have occurred into the brain. And the thyroid would have had high levels of fluoride from the water we were drinking back in those days, which would have displaced the iodine and selenium, which are required for brain functionality. How many of you have a irregular heartbeat? How many of you are dealing with irregularities in the heartbeat, or mitral valve prolapse, or some other heart condition? And they were attributing these problems to cholesterol, which was the biggest pile of rubbish ever could be, because cholesterol would have protected the heart from these very conditions I just mentioned. But if we remove the selenium out of that equation, we remove the magnesium out of that equation, we remove the sodium out of that equation, we remove the potassium out of that equation, reduce the sulfur in the body out of that equation, you now have an imbalance or irregular heart rate, because these are the things that are required to maintain a steady, healthy heart. And by consuming these nanoparticulates, it would have displaced some of the more healthy minerals that the body required. And then come along with the glyphosates in the 80s and irradiation in the 90s. Okay, and the genetics and the altering of the genetic code later on, you'd have had a further displacement of bacteria. You would have had a further displacement of these nutrients, key nutrients, that would have protected the body, the brain, the genetic code, the cellular matrix, the mitochondria, that are now becoming dysfunctional. So when we're looking at how we have become undone, and we look at how we have accumulated these nanoparticulates in the diet over several decades, as a result of this exposure, we are now having issues in all forms and fashions. All kinds of issues: thyroid issues, thymus issues, heart issues, pancreas issues. We're having issues with the stomach, with the pylori and the GERD, and we're having digestive disorders. We're also having intestinal issues. All the itises that are there. The itises, whether it's leaky gut, irritable bowel, enteritis, all the colitis, all these things would be a direct result of accumulation of nanoparticulates, which would have perforated or punctured the lining of the colon and would have translocated throughout the body into other organs, causing severe damage. And over 3, 4, and 5 decades of consuming these things, okay, they would have had a cumulative effect on the body. So many of you are breaking down in so many places at one time. This would be the only thing, the only viable thing that would explain this kind of breakdown. The older you get, the more diminished your immune system becomes, not because you're getting older. It's becoming more diminished because of the accumulation levels that you have. You've been accumulating a lot of these things for several decades. As a result, your body has been wearing down faster and faster by the decade because of the amount of accumulation that you've got. And when you start reducing the accumulation, guess what? You start reversing back and becoming stronger and more vital and more energetic, more alert, more mentally functional, more, depending on how active you become as well, whether it's mentally, physically, or both. So when we start looking at the reason why we're having a high level of breakdown in the body would be as a result of years and years of accumulations of these compositions that we've been absorbing in the food supply. Then we get into the atmosphere. The atmosphere has been polluted very heavily since the 1960s. In North America, we have been releasing high levels of nanoparticulates in the atmosphere since the 1960s. We have now been breathing this stuff in for almost 60 years, almost 57 years of accumulation of these nanoparticulates. 57 years. And as a result of this amount of time, again, your body would have absorbed so much of this into the bloodstream, into the cells, into the tissues. Okay, it would have translocated from the lungs into your other parts of the body. A lot of the cancers that have accumulated in the body as a result of these particulate matters would have changed the balance of chemistry in the system. It's not a matter of being alkaline or acidic. Alkalinity and acidity is a result of chemical reactions that the body is going through. We're talking about chemtrails, and we're talking about barium, and we're talking about aluminum, and we're talking about these other alkaline metals that are coming down out of the sky. When we're exposed to those metals, our bodies go into an acidic state anyway to countermeasure the alkalinity of these metals that can cause a state of alkalosis in the body. As a result of that chemical reaction, it creates an imbalance in the system. So when you're looking at all the things that we're exposed to and we're trying to get into a state of alkaline or acidity, it's not a matter of getting into that state of balance and that chemical, but it's more of a matter of removing what is causing the chemical reaction to occur in the body. The exposure of these components need to be extracted out of the system in order to maintain chemical balance in the system. They call it homeostasis. So when we're talking about this balancing that's required, it's not about what you're eating. It's about what you're exposed to. Meat. Now, if somebody was to actually do a serious analysis of meat, if meat is being fed grasses, and grasses have a high concentration of anti-cancer properties, then there's no way that meat could cause cancer. No way. If unpasteurized milk has all the properties that your blood has, then there's no way that milk could cause cancer. No way. But when you're looking at what is being fed to the animals and what they're exposed to today, if not on top of that, we're talking atmospheric chemtrails falling down into the fields, and the animals are eating those grasses. Farmers are raising crops into the fields. Again, it's being exposed to high level of chemtrails and then sprays with nano sprays with glyphosates and other composites. These are the things that are causing the imbalances in the body. They're triggering an attack on the genome, attack on the DNA, attack on your chromosomes, shutting down signaling pathways for your body to respond, to protect itself, shutting down the body's ability to mount a defense against the things you're exposed to. This is the problem we're dealing with today. Nobody's looking at what is causing the problem. We're looking at, oh, you're eating meat, it's going to cause this. Oh, you're drinking dairy, oh, it's going to cause this. Oh, you're eating soy, it's going to cause this. Oh, you're eating vegetables, it's going to cause this. Oh, you're eating grains, it's going to cause this. These things normally would not have the negative impact that they do, but because they have been integrated, interfaced, saturated, emulsified with nanoparticles, the load in your system increases exponentially by the day, by the month, by the year, by the decade. When you start looking at what you're dealing with today and how you have to deal with it, the parameter has to change. The idea has to change. Tony, if we don't get unpasteurized milk with good quality milk powder suffice. It would depend on how you mixed it. You'd have to mix it with gelatin and coconut oil to get a similarity or a similar idea. And I would add a yogurt to it or some kind of bacterium to it, a probiotic with the milk. Don't just buy a powdered milk and use it. Try to, again, unless you have no other option, add some kind of probiotic to your milk. The milk has a normal occurring bacteria which allows your gut to break down those proteins. which you may not be able to sufficiently do if you don't have it in there. So if you're going to have a powdered milk, then by all means use it with coconut oil, gelatin, and a probiotic and water. Good distilled or reverse osmosis water. In dealing with what we are dealing with today, understanding this will make a big difference in how to treat your body, how to correct the imbalances in the body, how to correct the what's actually going on. All the health food industry is doing today, all it's really doing today is it's creating a systemic effect, just like the medical, where you're going in to treat a cause. Most of those colon cleanses are a waste of time. Huge waste of money. In order to strip out this nano buildup in the colon, you're going to need something a lot stronger, non-fiber, and which is going to attract and pull it out. Epsom salt is one thing that you can use because the magnesium and the sulfur will help pull out of the colon high levels of aluminum and other metals that are bound in the colon that would normally displace magnesium and calcium. The magnesium and sulfur will bind with those metals and pull them out. Things like sodium thiosulfate is another thing that you would use to pull this stuff out. At the very same time, you must start thinking of not just stripping, but you have to start thinking in restoration. So as you're stripping out, you're also putting in healthy fermented foods of some kind, non-soy based. All the soy products out there today are completely saturated with the nanotechnology, and there's absolutely no way you can get that out. I don't care if you ferment it, I don't care if you soak it, I don't care what you do to it. It is one of the most poisonous plants on the planet, and with the added nanotechnology that they're applying to it, it makes it beyond lethal. It will translocate those particulates throughout your body, affecting your organs such as your liver, your kidneys, your spleen, and causing major havoc in your immune system. This is not something you want to use even on a fermented level. If you know a farmer, if you know a group of people, if you can buy a cow share, I would suggest you do this. If you can't do this, it's not within your realm of reality, then you are going to the grocery store. I was in Michigan the last couple of days, and I found actually a product they had there. Now, this is up in the in Michigan. You may find it in your local store in the United States. I don't know. But the product was called nona. It was, I think, a Greek or Mediterranean style yogurt. It had about 11 to 12 grams of fat, which impressed me, because most of the yogurts in the United States don't have fat in them. And it had some of the best cultures in it. It had the lactobacillus in it, or lactobacillus bulgaricus was in there. I was impressed. It had Lactobacillus acidophilus was in there. It had 3 good strains in there, and I was like, this is really a good. It was a little expensive, but with that, you could make probably a half a gallon of milk with it by adding water to it and blending it up, adding a little coconut oil and maybe some gelatin to it, mixing it together. You would have a very solid based milk. Now, this is for those of you in the United States who do not have access to a farm, and this is something that you can find. Now, you may not find that brand in your location, so I'll tell you what to look for on the yogurt. Yogurt will have anywhere between 10 and 14 grams of fat, saturated fat. You get that one. It'll have at least 3 strains of bacteria on it. One of them will be the Lactobacillus bulgaricus. This is a very, very powerful strain in helping the body's immune system and helping the infrastructure. It also will have the lactobacillus acidophilus, and there's another one it has. There's 3 of them, but they were all very good. So if you find the 3 main strains, it's got the high fat content. They're all going to have some kind of sugar. This one was the plain, but they will all have some form of type of sugars involved. All right, come on back. We're having a break here, and we'll see you when you come back, and so we can get you back to being healthy. See you in a bit. Hey, we are back. This is The Remedy. Hi, I'm your host, Tony ntalleresco, and we're listening to us live on the Micro Effect Broadcasting Network. We were talking before the break, doing things that are going to protect the genetic code, doing things that are going to protect the DNA, doing things because we have been exposed for several decades. And because of the exposure for several decades, we have been layered upon layered internally with these compositions of nanoparticulates in the food supply, which was never ever revealed in the past. And because we've been exposed to high level of nanoparticulates in the atmosphere, which when they done the studies back in the 60s and 70s was such a hilarious joke, the way they did a sleight of hand, bait and switch, if you will, that we today are now feeling the consequences of being misinformed by what had transpired. And the medical field, which is interesting enough when you sit there and think about it, the medical field has come out and stated they can't cure anything. And that cures are, at best, a statement, not a fact. Well, they are correct in what they say. They cannot cure anything because they never, ever dealt with the issue that caused the issues or the maladies or the infections or the afflictions that were going on in people. If you don't deal with what is triggering an effect in the body, if I am putting something in the body, I was talking to a young woman tonight about this. If I shut down your genetic code, okay, we have a double helix. And in a double helix, we've got these strands of code that connect one side of the helix to the other. And each strand is a double bond. In other words, we've got 2 of each. So if one strand of the genetic code should break down, you have a template to restore and rebuild with that template. But if you have something that can integrate with the genetic code, and instead of regrowing that strand, you now are connecting with a set of nanoparticulates that have a program, you are now putting into the helix a program that could be very disruptive to the way your body is supposed to work. And again, we're not talking about this today. We're not even dealing with this today. What we're dealing with today is, again, a symptomology or symptoms that have nothing to do with what's going on. So, again, there you go. Okay. Okay, someone just sent me something from the U.S. Now, again, this is in the Northeast. She's got this yogurt I buy is brown cow. It has 10% fat, about as high as fat as I could find so far. It has the S. thermophilus, the L. bulgaricus, which is really good, and the acidophilus, which is also very good, and bifidus. So she's got a good one there. So if you can find something similar to this anywhere in the United States, or Canada, or anywhere else in the world that has access to this, because over here we have limited access to fermented foods that actually have any value. A lot of them are just junk, plain and simple, just junk. So when you're looking at these things, again, the bacteria in the colon is very key and very integrative to your genetic code. It's another one of these things that can help protect your genome and restore your biological balance back. We are primarily a bacterium. Human beings are made highly of bacteria. Anything that's going to create a disruption in the bacterium is going to create a breakdown. And one of the things that we can do is to sustain a healthy level of bacterium in the body in order to sustain proper functionality. When we incorporate something that can attach itself to the bacterium and alter the program of the bacterium, then that bacterium, instead of being a benefit to the body, becomes an adversary to the body. Because we have now altered its biological function. This is what's going on. We were talking years ago about pollution, how pollution can cause problems, okay? We never really focused on that concept. Because the moment they told us the truth about it, they distracted us with some sort of fairy tale or some sort of distraction. Oh, the latest and greatest television show. Stay tuned for the new Great Wonder Walt Disney Channel, whatever the heck they were selling. Or here's a brand new Barbie doll. You got to have it. It talks, it walks, whatever. Oh, we got this brand new Chevrolet. We got this brand new Ford. We got this brand new Chrysler. Brand new American Motors. For those of you who were around in my time, American Motors was a company that was in the United States. And Chrysler eventually bought it out. But back then we had American Motors, Volkswagen, Chrysler, Ford, and GM. Those of you who have been around know what I'm talking about. Well, we got all distracted with all, and then how did they distract the men? They put a nice voluptuous blonde on a car, making the car look seductive and sexy, and it really had nothing to do with anything. But men get caught up with the highlights of creation and get distracted, and so they bought cars that didn't work, which created more nanoparticles, which created more exposure to nanoparticles, which created more problems with health. Not to mention all the divorces that occurred over that period of time. Because of the fantasy. Anyway, when we're talking today about what we have to do, it's not about buying a vitamin anymore and taking this because it's good for you. Okay, taking things that are good for you is a good thing, but it's not the way to really do it today. We need to start taking things that are going to be supportive of our genetic code. We need to take things today that's going to support the DNA. We need to take things today that are going to help regenerate broken, damaged helixes in the DNA and strands in the helix that have been damaged. That's what we have to start looking at today. We have to start expelling out of the body these particulates that are trying to overwrite our genetic code. We got to take these things out of the body that are constructing themselves to create a mimetic, a conduit, a network. This is the problem we're dealing with today, and nobody is focusing on this. And then, as a result of these constructs going on in the body, we are now producing a biofilm matter in the system because it attaches itself to anything synthetic. The reason why we have biofilm in our oral cavities is because of the dental institutions. All they've ever done to us is hijack us. They gave us dental work that we never needed. They told us to go in there and brush your teeth with a fluoride chemical that caused the infrastructure of the teeth to collapse. They allowed us to consume stuff and then said, all you got to do is brush your teeth. That brushing of the teeth caused a high level of sabotage on the oral cavity. We've been better off using a oil as a oil pulling method, because the oil pulling method, or using even a solution of saline in the oral cavity, creates a vacuum that can draw out of the gum line the nanoparticles that you have been consuming. The reason why you've had dental wear and tear is not because of the sugar you ate, even though it is a carbon particle. It's because of the nanoparticles they mixed in your sugar. which are a high-density silica carbon material, which is harder than the calcium in your teeth, which would have scratched the teeth, penetrated the gum line, and damaged the root. That's what happened. But because they got us again distracted, oh, you're eating all those sweets and blah, blah. And then on top of that, they sold us pop. Oh, things go better with Coca-Cola. Remember that? RC Coca-Cola, Pepsi, you know. We'd love to teach the world to sing. Yeah, perfect harmony while you're losing your teeth because the phosphoric acid and the citric acid, when it was mixed, started breaking down the enamel as well, allowing these nanoparticulates to cause more irreparable damage. And then the dentist says, oh, we got to pull out the tooth, or we got to give you a root canal. Further hijacking the mouth. High beams. Yep, that's what it was. High beams to advertise high beams. That's exact. But nobody was paying attention to the car's high beams. That's what happened in the 60s and the 70s. And people got married off for the wrong reasons because they thought they were driving a car. Anyway, some of the things that come out of the show. Anyway, the hijacking that went on in the oral cavity was the result of, again, nanoparticulates being mixed with the food supply. Even today, we hear stories of iodized salt having glass mixed with it. That glass is a silica-based glass. This is why you want the stuff out of the ocean. Or at least somewhere where they're not adding crap to it. Everything we're eating today, in some form or fashion, and I don't care what it is, I don't care what you advocate for a dietary way of living, all has nanoparticulate matter. If you're a vegan or a vegetarian and you're eating the broadleaf vegetables, you are going to get a high level of saturated levels of nanoparticles, and you can validate this by getting a 60x ocular and looking on the surface of these plants, because everything above 100 nanoparticles will aggregate or agglomerate on the surface. Anything that's 1 to 50 nanometers will go through everything, and I mean everything. When you're talking meats, those of you who are advocating the raw food diet or whatever you're eating, raw meats and all this stuff, these meats will also have nanoparticulates in them as well. The animals will be able to filter out some of this through their organs, but a lot of that will still get through into the meat. There is no escaping it. If you're a person eating a lot of fruit, you really got to examine what you're eating, because a lot of fruit you're eating today will have a lot of saturation on the surface. So someone's asked me, what event am I doing? We're doing an event in regard to GAG Canada. For those of you who are listening, GAG Canada is another organization in Canada that's trying to make an awareness factor on chemtrails and getting people organized so that we can make a change in this insanity by creating a planet-side suicide is what's going on. So again, when we're looking at what's happening today, it's going to take the human race to get together and get past all our differences and start assembling a game plan, whether it's a multiple plan or a singularity. There is no singularity in this. This is going to have to be done and approached from very multi-dimensional levels in order to stop this. We are dealing with things today we have never ever dealt with, and this is again a direct result of 50 years of accumulation that's been going on. You have to understand that the chemtrail activity that we're dealing with started in 1947 in North America, and this has been going on ever since. So a lot of the health issues that we have been dealing with have been a direct result of our air quality being violated. I mean, it's not the first time that the citizens of North America have had experiments done on them by the government. In Canada, 1984, for those of us in Canada, in Espanola, Ontario, 1984, they did a low flyby with chemtrails and just about made everybody in the community sicker than blazes. They could have killed that whole population of 700 in Espanola, Ontario, and nobody would have been the wiser. And this was an agreement with the United States and Canada. So these experiments have been going on, violating human rights. So much for your human rights. It's almost as much as the idea that we have freedom. We have no freedom. The governments can come along and exploit you any way they want to. You know, the other thing that came along during that era of time that also created a high level of accumulation of health issues in our bodies was vaccines. How they sold us on the idea of vaccines and how vaccines were going to protect us. Now let me give you a little tidbit about the free flu vaccine. It's free. Do you know why it's free? Because maybe, just perhaps, that vaccine doesn't have a flu antigen in it, but some other experimental biological agent or a nano agent or even a synthetic agent. We were talking about synthetic blood with a couple of us in the last couple of weeks. That's where we're at. Nobody really questions the fact that these vaccines that you're getting, these free vaccines, are actually what's in them. How many of you gone up to these clinics and these pharmacists and whatnot and have asked them what is in those vaccines? How many of you asked for documentation to validate this? How many of you taken copies of these documentations to validate this, just in case something could go wrong, so then you can go back after the drug companies and sue the crap out of them? Give you an example. Okay, smallpox vaccine in Africa. Forget what year it was right off the bat. I think it was in the 1980s, maybe 1990s, maybe it was 2000. I think 2005. Free vaccines were given to the Africans. You know, the kids with the suntan over in Africa. And they were given these vaccines. 5 years later, they all died. Because what they found out was the smallpox vaccine they gave them did not have smallpox in it, but an experimental drug. Isn't that sweet? Now, I had another friend of mine send me something else about the intern camps over in the Middle East, in Syria and whatnot. You know what's going on in those intern camps? They're organ harvesting people. They're killing people in those camps and harvesting their organs and selling them on the black market. And the young boys and girls are being human trafficked all over the world. Who's going to miss a bunch of people from the Middle East, especially if they might be Muslim, or maybe they're Christian, or maybe they're just people from the Middle East, you know, those in-between suntanners. Who's going to care about that, right? This has been going on to the Native American, Native Canadian in North America for decades. Coming to a FEMA camp near you. I'm making this and presenting this because this is all part of our awakening and awareness. Okay, and I'm pointing this out on purpose so that you don't assume what the news media is telling you is accurate, because it is not accurate. It's all, everything that we've ever had in North America, everything we've ever had has been a hijack, a sabotage, a deceit, a deception, a lie. All in the name of experimentation, exploitation, and dysfunctionality and debilitation. They have been working in overtime trying to create a human condition of complete debilitation. Okay, before I go on, I'm going to continue this in a bit, but it's time to, promote people, promoting the Micro-Effect Broadcasting Network, an activist network that is putting out the facts, putting out shows like this so that you can be aware and be made conscious of what's going on so you can do something about it. Support the micro effect. You got Linda Natural Earth Organics, another one that supplies stuff from the farm. Support her, 519-980-5995. She gets it straight from the farm. Get it as close to the farm as you can and as clean as possible. You got byebyeblueskies.com and www.health-access.com, which publish some of my work on their sites. Feel free to go and support them. Show them what you're supporting any way you can. Bye Bye Blue Sky has, again, a billboard campaign. It's one of the most unique things ever. It is simplistic and very outreaching. Support her any way you can. Again, I'm talking about GAG Canada. You got Bernadette Green. She's on my site. Go check her out. Go check out her work. I believe they're with Windsor Weather Modification. So again, check out Windsor Weather Modification Awareness Group and GAG Canada. So again, check her out. Check out the site. You've got me down here at 519-977-5351 or independz at yahoo.com. We've got a website as well, augmentandforce.com, which has a catalog link, which has a bucket, which has t-shirts, which has again a variety of remedies that are there. So if you're interested in the flash drive, it's a 32 gig flash. Again, it's got books, it's got videos, it's got radio shows, it's got interviews, it's got databases, all in one. Okay, so again, check out the site, check things out. If you do need a consultation, I am available through Skype or through the email or through phone. So again, independz at yahoo.com or 519-977-5351. So again, when we're talking today about what's happening, what's going on, way things have been, how we have been handled, how we have been directed. I don't blame anybody who's human on the planet for what has gone on. I do blame the directors of this planet who have misled the human race in the condition that it's in today, making the human race more vulnerable, more debilitated, and more dysfunctional through nanotechnology, through genetics, through, misinformation of facts about what's healthy, what's healing, creating a dynamic where the medical field says we can't cure, we can only treat. Isn't that ludicrous? Isn't that ludicrous? Where they're implementing vaccines that have live cultures, genetic material, and nano particulates in these components, and they're not even what they say they are. And then they want you to, and they want to force you to be vaccinated with this crap. Again, something's not right. All right, come back for part 2 so that we can further become more enlightened. All right, talk to you in a bit. Hi, everybody. This is independz, or Tony ntalleresco, and I'm just a guy who knows some stuff, and I just wanted to touch on some things real quick, real brief. This will be a short broadcast because tomorrow, Saturday, I'll be doing a radio show if all goes well, and if we don't get abducted by aliens or some outside influence from some interdimensional portal opens up, or God forbid a global annihilation should occur. We'll be here. I wanted to point out that this is sort of going to be a promo that this Sunday, December 12th, between noon and 3 p.m. In Windsor, Ontario, at Herbs Plus Beadworks, we will be doing some consultations for free in regard to, again, contributing or to donate to GAG Canada. GAG Canada is another organization that's headed by Bernadette Green, who is active in getting people informed and active and involved in trying to protect our environment via chemtrails and other things. And so this is a cause I decided to support. I support Bye Bye Blue Sky as well, another Canadian outfit who is again going right across Canada as well as globally. So again, if you're in the neck of the woods, and if you want to come by and get a consult, and again, donate to GAG Canada. Again, feel free to come in at 1465 Ottawa Street, Windsor, Ontario, December 12th, Sunday, 2016, between noon and 3 p.m. All right, I got the commercial out. I got the promo out. I wanted you guys to have access if you could. Sunday is going to be whatever day comes, and if you're here, great, and if you're not, it's okay too. It's okay too. Anyway, I do radio shows on health, and I also talk about nanotechnology and genetics, and it's been an interesting week. I always have interesting weeks. I'm all over the place, sometimes in my shop, sometimes on the computer, talking to people globally, and with nanopoisoning and nanotechnology, it comes with nanopoisoning, which is again being maligned as Morgellons. And Morgellons is nothing more than an interface of nanobiology or synthetic life. And all that we've been exposed to, all the things that we've been told, a lot of it has been, again, fictional, fairy tale, speculative at best. And when we're dealing with different things in these areas, when we get involved and we start seeing that new biologies, new pathologies are forming, new genetics are happening, people are starting to distort. How many of you have looked outside and about you and have seen people, women, whose backside start at about midway down up their back, go all the way down behind their knee and spread out 4 feet? That's genetics. This is not a obese issue. This is a genetic distortion happening right in front of your eyes. How many of you have seen men who have a chest that starts out and barrels down and gets bigger as it gets near the midriff? Again, this is another genetic distortion. How many of you are having issues with your autoimmune, having some form of autoimmune? This too is a genetic anomaly. Now, when they tell you you have a genetic disposition to a specific ailment, affliction, disease, something, what they're telling you is a partial truth. You do have a genetic disposition, but the disposition is not your genetic code. Your disposition is the genetic code that's being accessed, downloaded, and activating with your code, with your chromosomes, with your genetics, with your DNA, your mitochondria, your ATP, with your enzymes, your immune system, the antioxidants in the body, the cells that activate, the cells that deactivate, to protect the body, to stimulate a specific effect. Some produce an oxidizing effect, which triggers a chemical reaction, which causes another effect. Some utilize hydrogens, some utilize oxygens. So again, we have all these things going on, and things go wrong. How many of you have taken supplements and not even read the supplements and realize that the supplements themselves today are carrying polymer material that does not break down? How many of you are looking at the materials in the capsules themselves and seeing that you've got several different types of, again, cellulose, again, that doesn't break down, titanium dioxide, which is a nanometal, which causes severe oxidation and oxidative stress in the brain? How many are you reading things like aluminum lake, the different colors of aluminum, which also, again, for women, affect their endocrine system by binding to the receptor sites in their body, which activate what is active as a metalloestrogen. How many are using things that have a fluoride content to them, knowing full well that fluoride can cause thyroid issues and damage? So when we're seeing all these things and we see a compilation of things that have occurred, 1960s, nanoparticles were released in the atmosphere. At that time, the terminology was ultrafine particles. In the 70s, in the late 70s, we had nanoparticles being put into the food supply, again causing all kinds of genetic anomalies in regard to your foods and allergies and autoimmune, restless leg, lupus, so forth and so on. But when we're looking at all the things that are going on today and how we have been already uploaded or downloaded with these particulates in the food supply, and how we are now, again, having these things becoming automated through frequencies to be active, to proliferate, propagate, self-prepare, self-assemble, start assembling a lattice inside the system, setting up origami, setting up networks, conduits. When you start seeing these things and then begin to realize that a lot of health issues today are a result of 50, 60, 70 years of exposure. We start looking at the 1980s, 1990s, and we start seeing how the genetics had got into the picture and how we started genetically engineering and then using genetically engineered pesticides and insecticides and fungicides, and then again adding nano to that equation to make these things more nano penetrating. Then in the 1990s we got into the whole construct of irradiating the food supply, cutting out refrigeration, removing things like salt from the food, which activated other pathologies to interface with the biology that was going on, the altering of the biology, and further causing a compromise in the immune system, so that as the immune system was compromised more and more, failing to defend the body, it was being more readily invaded. This is a form of programming the genetic code, programming the DNA. When we're looking at the genetic code and nanotechnology and how they are becoming one integrated component in the body, creating a whole new synthetic life, a whole new symbiosis of things to occur. When you look at artificial intelligence, it is mimicking advanced intelligence. Advanced intelligence is the human genome. It was created by the Creator, created by God, and created us after His image, and it was through great perfection was it made. Now everything that's being seen and done in the artificial realm is a copy of something far more advanced. And so when we're looking at what's happening here is with the interface of different genetics, different DNAs, different PNAs, GNAs, LNAs, XNAs, how these two interface with the genetic code, allowing the nano to further penetrate and to violate the gene pool, activating things or deactivating immune structures so that the body could become more compromised, more receptive to being taken over, to becoming more of an automaton. When these things get in, they act like a Trojan horse. When they're bound with different types of DNA structures like XNA or LNA, locks the nanoparticles, locks again nucleic acids into with the DNA. XNA is an actual mirror of the DNA, except the difference is the sugar molecules make a difference, so it can now mimic and copy and mirror the genetic code. And so whatever is with that mirror, it can now interface it directly inside. When the lattices of the double helix is broken, what happens is the interface again, it reasserts itself with the nanoparticles to fill in the gap and to repair the system. Now, to repair your double helix strands, you might want to use something like inositol with phosphorus, or inositol hexaphosphate, or IP6. This helps in regrowing the damaged helixes that may have been broken, the strands between the helix, I should say, that have been broken, and can restore and again reactivate that. So when we're looking at things to do and what we're seeing and how we're seeing these things. And you have to see how this has been going on for quite some time, and how in the interface with the programming in regard to how we are becoming programmed, how after 70 years of having these things get inside the body, how they've assembled, how they have replicated, how they have networked, how they have repaired themselves, how they've copied, attached, how they're again bound with your cells, and what to do to flush this out. We are seeing the end result of outward growth of circuitry and circuits and circuit boards that are coming through the skin, which are being manufactured by the body, because the genetic code now is telling the body to manufacture this stuff by utilizing these materials that which we are being absorbed through the way we breathe, the way we eat, the way we drink, and what things we're wearing, and the things that we're exposed to. When you're looking at what's being told to us about genetic materials and nanoparticles, how nanos are going to save the day, how they're going to heal all the diseases, how they're going to be able to get inside the body and be able to slowly release drugs and things, what they are not telling you is how are they getting these materials out. They don't come out unless they are programmed to come out, or unless you produce something to draw them out. And when you're looking at the activities that are going on, then we have to start looking at all the health issues that we've been told might have been a direct result of either being acidic, alkaline, whether it would be because of what we've eaten or what we've been exposed to, chemical, metal poisoning, all the different things that we've been told. We have to reevaluate, because none of those things are accurate. When we're looking at dealing with things, we have to deal with the very cause of what's going on, not with the treatments. This is what's going on with the health food industry. This is what's going on with naturopaths today. This is what's going on with some herbalists and other alternative healers. They are following the current trend of creating a treatment program rather than a solution-solving program. The medical industry will never cure you. They are not designed to cure you. There is no answers are you going to find in the medical industry. The allopaths today are not there to cure you. They are not there to fix you. They are not there to do anything but prescribe a drug, do a prognosis based on whatever is the current popular illness of the day, and to then give you whatever, again, script that they deem is worthy of treatment. And those scripts are all nano delivery, nanoparticles, poison. Each one of those drugs that they prescribe have over 30 side effects, which again attack the genetic code, which again attack the DNA, which again attack the host, and then start altering the host programming to make them more susceptible to be invaded, not by biologies, not by pathologies, but by technologies that have biology and pathologies connected to them. And this is where we have to start again reevaluating and reanalyzing what we have been taught, because none of the methodologies that we have heard in the last 20 or 30 years are working. Spooky doesn't work on nanopoisoning, neither does Rife, neither does zapping, because they have figured a way to neutralize the effects of these things. A lot of frequency devices are being sold today only will activate the nano inside the body to further propagate itself. So none of these things should be advised or being looked at because of what the nature of nano can do. These things have a morphology. Because they are interfaced with biology, they also can evolve. When you add a protein to a metal, the metal then starts to evolve. This has been, you can look this up and on any site you want, metal evolution, and you will find that there's research indicating what I'm saying is true. When you're looking at some of the TV shows like the Terminator, and when he was fighting the polymer-based bot, that's what they're talking about. Metals that can again evolve and be able to do things that normal metal could not do. So again, we're looking at things today, and I'm pointing in that direction. So now let's take a look at some of the things that can go wrong. When you're exposed to a lot of things over a period of time, the heart will strain. So will the kidneys. So will the pancreas. So will the thymus. Right now we're going to deal on the heart. We're going to deal on the adrenals, because this is the big thing that most of you are dealing with today. Stress, fatigue, exhaustion. And you go to the doctor and says, oh, you got high blood pressure, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. And all it is, a lot of times, is there's a magnesium, taurine, and potassium deficiency, or maybe there's a CQ10 deficiency, which would affect the mitochondria. And these are very easy things to simplify and fix these things by taking 500 milligrams of taurine, 100 milligrams of magnesium citrate, 99 milligrams of potassium citrate. Do these things 4 or 5 times a day initially to get them in the system, and then wean yourself down. Another option you also have is by taking some kind of vitamin E oil, which is very difficult to find today, because majority of them are either soy-based or encapsulated with some crap in them. So the cheapest and easiest vitamin E that you can get is a wheat germ oil by a company called Vibin or the Now brand, or just use a teaspoon of almond oil, sunflower oil, or any other, most of the seed nut oils that have vitamin E in them. Again, combining these things, vitamin E and CQ10 with a little black pepper mixed with it, can actually activate the mitochondria and sustain the ATP levels for the heart, further fortifying the upbuild of the heart. You got to remember, your internal organs are fighting morning, noon, and night to keep you alive from the exposure from nanometals that are coming down on the sky, nanometals that you're eating, nanometals that you're drinking in your drinking water. So, okay, let's look at the kidneys. Now, the kidneys, again, let's take a look at the adrenals. How about a little B5, vitamin A retinol palmitate? How about a little dandelion tea? How about a little rhodiola? How about some carrots? You can take carrots, peel them, juice them, add to them the B5, say one 3-ounce glass, say a 500 milligram of B5. You can also use vitamin A, 10,000 international units of a non-soy-based vitamin A retinol palmitate, for instance. And again, company by the name of Biotics may sell it still. Again, using teas like dandelion tea also help in fortifying the kidneys by the way it flushes the stuff out. Burdock root will do the same. You might even want to use something like a salt solution of trisodium phosphate, or even a possible sunflower lecithin, because this will help again get into the system and again flush out some of the stuff going on. When you're looking at and do these things again 3 to 5 times a day, what we have found here over a period of time, that if you're not using these supplements at least 5 times a day, the benefits are going to be nominal. When we're looking at again how nano is causing severe strain on the kidneys, this is why we suggested doing the bucket. If you do the bucket by adding 2 gallons of vinegar, 1 gallon of distilled water, some sea salt, tiny bit of oil, and then run it through a power supply and sit there for an hour, you might be surprised at how good the kidneys will feel just by the fact that you've extracted out of the body high volumes of metal particulates that might have been trapped into the tissues and skin, which have come out into that bucket, which would have taken the load off the kidneys. So again, these are 2 things, 2 organs that would be stressed heavily because of the nature of our exposure. So when we're seeing all these things and getting some solutions here, you know, it's what you need to take a look at. All right, I'm going to let it go for now because I will be doing another show tomorrow. So, but just a reminder, Sunday, December 12th, noon to 3 in Windsor, Ontario, Herbs Plus Beadworks, 1465 Ottawa Street. We are going to have consults so that you can come on in. If you need any help, I'll help you out. And if you can donate to GAG Canada, feel free to do so. All right, so till tomorrow, have a good night, good rest. See you later.